Hello, everyone. This is Meshell Baker. This is another episode of the Women of Sales and Influence coming to you live from Facebook. And as you all know, the format, I have with me another fabulous woman who is a woman of sales and influence, Eliana Gilad. She will be sharing with you, just to let you know, I'm Meshell Baker. I'm your host. I am the Director of Global Sales Development for the National Association of Sales Professionals, who is also our sponsor. I'm also I am an award-winning international keynote speaker as of my time at the Women's Economic Forum in London. I am a expert confidence coach and a sales success strategist. And this format is brought together to show women and anyone else who's watching the power of when you believe in yourself, what you're able to do in your business, what you're able to do as a sales professional, what you're able to do with whatever your platform is, right? Everyone is out there selling themselves every day. Most people don't know it, so most people don't do it well. So this platform is expressly for people to see what that's like, to have something you believe in so much so that you will actually stand up and become the courageous and powerful women. This is the target audience of this live. So today we have with us an incredible woman that I met when I was out in the Los Angeles at the B2B Expo. And she is a woman who has done some amazing things. Once she stepped into her feminine power, once she stepped into her belief, she just started changing the world one person at a time. And I'm so excited to share. So as the platform has, the woman who is the guest introduces herself, because we like to model what it's like when you're confident, you don't hesitate about saying what makes you amazing. So we model that on this show. So Eliana, please tell us what makes you amazing.
Thank you very much for having me on this show. What makes me amazing is I am a woman who is willing to show up in the moment with whatever is. And I'm very, very honored that you've invited me to be here, particularly because this is women in sales. Yes. And I love this subject of feminine leadership and feminine power in sales. It's like, what? What is that? And I'm looking forward to exploring that together. If I would introduce myself, dear ladies, first of all, I am a woman who does not sell. What? We're on a sales call. Yes, but feminine power does not have the need to go after. Feminine power knows its worth. Do you see the computer here? It's like we had the internet, right? If it's not this, it's going to be that. And you have your sales presentation set up. You're a smart cookie. You dot your I's and cross your T's. And then you get to the moment where you're with the client or you're at the presentation, and what you had intended and what actually happens may be like night and day. My brilliance is that I am willing to show up imperfect, because I have learned over the years that the most attractive quality in a sales presentation or in any presentation is not how well we look, but how well we show up. And how well we show up so much has to do with how we show up, not when things are all perfect and all sewn up, but when they don't work. So you're getting a really, really great firsthand opportunity right now, because I'm on a phone and not on my laptop. And what I'm very conscious of and confident of is that what will transpire here with two amazing women together, and amazing women who are watching here, that something inspiring and empowering will be in this conversation. And the last thing I will say about the, you said introduce yourself. How do you?
Well, yeah. So the question was, we generally start off with a little credentialing. It's part of the process of when getting ready to communicate with someone. You want to tell them why we're worth listening to. So I
So
would love for you to tell people a little bit about your background, because then it sets it up to be like, oh my God, Eliana knows what she's talking about.
fantastic. So right, I started in a different way, right? Not the usual way. But I want you gals to know that by my showing up in this way has resulted in 3 invitations to present before the United Nations. It has resulted in invitations to give 2 TED Talks. It has resulted in my initiating the world's first live healing music research project in a 50-50 Israeli-Palestinian neonatal intensive care unit during war. The purpose of that was a sales job, but not doing sales, just showing up. Because how do you prove something that's 5,000 years old that was never written down? How do you even talk about that? So that's a little bit on the, I'm the author of Miriam's Secret, Revealing the Ancient Wisdom of Feminine Leadership, which is the first of 4 books, which is the repository of 30 years of walking this talk. And there is a model built on this. And that's as a result of that medical research project, of which I am the author in medical journals, and I am not a doctor.
Okay. So, and so the next part is you have this background, right? And your topic today is that you wanted to share with people. You want to tell us a little bit about,
Yeah, thank you. First of all, Meshell, thank you so much for, for your power and your leadership and your fabulous questions. I would like to address this issue of feminine leadership. And you wrote in such great question we have a feminine leadership wisdom community on Facebook, and Meshell wrote this fabulous question. Well, what is feminine leadership? First, define what that is. And I thought that was such a fabulous question, because even these words, right? Feminine, masculine, leadership, they all have connotations to them, and we each have our own definitions of what things are. And that question gave me a lot of pause of, even when we have definitions of things, well, that's from a cognitive place where when we speak, we're communicating cognitively. And yet there is a whole nother paradigm, a whole nother level that goes beyond our cognitive, which when I use the word feminine, what I mean by that are, I don't mean man or woman. I mean those qualities of receptivity, of listening, of receptivity, of patience, of compassion, of gentleness. And by gentleness, I do not mean holding back. I mean the gentleness of water. If you think about one drop of water over a period of time can bore a hole in a rock that might, going for it, could never do. I'm talking about that. Those are what I'm referring to as feminine qualities. And then with regards to leadership, in another group that I'm part of, I actually, after your question, Meshell, I thought this would be very interesting. I just posed in that group, I said, what is your definition? How would you define feminine leadership? And it's so interesting to hear different people's responses. Some people get stirred up by feminine. Some people get stirred up by leadership. Some just, it's like, how could you even have those 2 things in the same, they don't connect at all. And one woman yesterday wrote something of feminine leadership, and leadership itself is being so clear of who you are that you show up as that. That's brilliant. I loved that. I'm wondering what's your definition?
I don't have a definition because I think I actually wrote what was the definition, and then you asked me, and then I asked, well, are you giving me an assignment or an answer, right? I was just
Yeah,
like,
I didn't understand that. Could you?
right? Well, because I don't understand when people answer a question with a question. Because I had never even,
Oh,
I'm not familiar with the term at all, right? I'm not familiar with the term at
yeah,
all, so I wouldn't even know how to answer it. I was looking honestly for an answer. It's not even a concept that I incorporated any of my conversation or have ever communicated about. So, yeah,
wow.
yeah. So for someone to ask me what that means is like I don't know. I was curious because I would have loved to have the conversation. I just needed a launch pad.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah. So it's not anything. I mean, when I think of leadership, I don't think in terms of feminine or masculine. I think in terms of service to the people that are being led. And as long as they're being well served, then that person is then they're being well led, right? Because it's going to be yeah, that's the way I think.
Wow, that is so interesting. For
Yeah.
m- for me, leadership, it's like what that woman wrote yesterday. She said just, showing up as you. So she's not even referring to any other people. And when I've been considering this as of late, it's like, wow. Other people wrote, well, yeah, leadership. We have this notion there's a leader and you're leading others. And I see with feminine leadership, and it's prefaced by my having lived in the Middle East for 25 years, that really I've I've learned so much by experiencing it. It's such a different mindset and such a different world, and it's more of a mindset of a group mindset rather than leader follower, and that's what I find so exciting in exploring ancient ways. Not to go back. Who wants to go back to what was? Yet prior to biblical times, so we have precedents that we number one, we operated according to feminine worldview. And I don't mean man woman, meaning like the an example would be mother nature, that's cyclical, that there are many levels of reality that are occurring all at the same time. So that feminine leadership I see, and what I'm daring to explore, because none of us knows it, is that Voices of Eden, which is what I've called this approach. It's a very living, dynamic experiment of creating Eden on earth, one authentic voice at a time. Imagine what happens as each one of us dares to stop and listen within, kind of like what that woman's definition of leadership was, and that we dare trust what we're hearing, and that we dare to express that, and that we dare hear those voices, that forms a unified whole.
Okay, all right. I think I'm catching on a little bit now. And at first, I want to say, because many people watch this on replay, but when I get live people, that's why you see me keep looking down because I'm doing double duty on the phone.
Oh, okay.
Hello, Diana Jackson. She's one of our avid
Hi,
followers.
Diana.
Really appreciate you. And Jerushka is a woman I met recently who is just, oh my God, you could just literally eat her up with a spoon. Diana, not saying that I couldn't eat you up with a spoon. I just haven't met you in person yet. Probably can. So thank you for joining. Anyone else, I'll shout you out as the day goes. But I think I'm catching on because as you were talking, and I think you said touched on biblical. So one of the biblical references of female leadership that I remember early on was Esther. And I remember it wasn't that she wasn't powerful, she was patient in her leadership and she was willing to do whatever it took, no matter what, to be in service to the people. Kind of like what I said earlier, it was all about the people she was called to serve and her calling, and she did whatever it took, no matter what, because that was her
Yeah.
calling,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't the ego of who she was or what she thought she should or what, when you start to hear, because when I hear things, when I hear certain terminology about have to, need to, ought to, should, when those are starting to invoke in conversation, I literally start to draw back in a posture of listening, because those are more internally. That's an internal drive for what that individual wants versus what is best in pursuit of the greater good. So, and I think of Ruth. Ruth is another one who I've always loved that story. And they both are stories of patience and of belief in something greater than
Yeah.
them, of what a possibility could be, even in the face of what they saw, so when I hear that, that's what I hear. Not that that's attributed to how people should behave now, but the two words that I would take away are a patient belief, right?
Yeah.
And I talk about that, and that's the whole purpose of this, is to empower women to believe in what they're more than what they're capable of with just their hands. The vision of what you've been called to do is far greater than anything that you think you have to, need to, ought to, should do. That's what I've just felt right now in this moment. So
Exactly. Exactly. And those are very powerful examples that you give. The figure who really inspires me most is the prophetess Miriam, who, if I'm presenting to a group of 10 people or 1,000, I will ask, who has heard of the prophetess Miriam? And at most, 10 people will raise their hands.
yeah,
Unless,
I've never heard of her. I don't even, like, who is she?
are you serious? I was saying, except if it's like a religious Christian
So
group,
wait,
Jewish group, they'll know
so
her. But
I'm
then
going
I
to stop you
say,
right there. I'm going to stop you right there before you go on. You're going to say, "Are you serious?" Now, you just told me that in a room of 1,000 or 100 or 1,000, you're going to only have like less than 5%, right? So that's basically kind of like, since you've been doing this for a while, it's probably let you know the population and the understanding of who Miriam is. And I just told you I didn't. So, and you're like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, I'm just a litmus of the
well,
population.
because you were talking about Ruth and Esther, it's like, I think probably less would know that. But, and then I'll ask, well, have you heard of Moses?
Yes,
All
he's in the
right.
Bible.
Well, Miriam is Moses's older sister.
Yeah,
And
no, I don't.
it is she who prophesied his birth. In fact,
Excuse me.
the ancient scriptures, and this is, I'm not referring to this as any religious thing, because this power, it's so much older even than biblical sources, except that time is when we started writing things down. But I've been kind of like a Sherlock Holmes, between archaeology and biblical sources and what's not said, like putting pieces of a puzzle back together again. And so the ancient scriptures tell that she was known as a prophet.
Okay.
And we know through ancient Egypt, I'm not going to go into this big, you go read Miriam's Secret, Revealing the Ancient Wisdom of Feminine Leadership. It's all there. But to our conversation and what it has to do with, it has everything to do with sales. You're going to love this. So if she was a prophetess, she would have seen what was coming. And the commentary says that their father, Amram, was the head of the entire community. And if you've seen the Disney movie, even with the Moses story, I don't know what the Bible story, where how the Hebrews are like forced out of, they're slaves, and the Egyptians are in hot pursuit of them. And Miriam, so they put Moses in, I'm sorry, I'm rushing ahead. I got to tell the part before. So the Pharaoh goes, "We're murdering the firstborn Hebrew babies." And their father, who's head of the Hebrews, goes, "Oh yeah, really?" No friggin' way. I'm just going to divorce my wife. And when I do that, the entire people will follow suit and there won't be any babies. And Miriam comes to her father and she goes, you are nuts. He decreed the firstborn male children be murdered. You're about to like decimate your entire people. So listen to me and listen to me good. You take your wife back and you will have another child. That child will be the one who not only saves our people, but will bring humanity into the next era. And the father listens to his girl. And he takes his wife back, and the people do that. And Moses is born. And, then we know the story of him being in the bulrush, which was Miriam. She who watched by the bulrushes and arranged. It was Pharaoh's daughter who comes down. This is according, to the stories. Pharaoh's daughter comes down, and she arranges for it that she take the baby in, and arranges that their mother becomes his wet nurse. She's like paid full-time salary, breastfeeding her own baby. Oh my God, who is that woman? That's power. Not only that, but her brilliance is that she led from the sidelines. She didn't need to go. This is feminine leadership, to be not me follower, and follower, and the led. No, it's like she had such power that she could wield it. And I don't believe it would be just her, it's more of an approach. And, there were many. But, what little is written about her, it's there. If something isn't important, don't we know, we just like get rid of it. And how we are in our modern worldview, sequential, which I call masculine, for lack of better words. You call it anything you want, but we see things sequentially, that what was before, what comes after is forward movement, advancement, what's before is less than. And her brilliance, how I see it, is that she was such a powerful leader that she was able to hide in plain sight these powerful tools that could help humanity move forward into our modern age, which we've been in, the last 3,000 years, that enabled us through our intellect to develop our technologies and our sciences. And that now we're at the end of another 3,000 years. I look at things from a very wide angle lens of, tens and thousands of years. And now this feminine is coming back up so that we can take what we have really succeeded at accomplishing over these last 3,000 years and come into a place of balance, into a new era that, none of us knows. It's, brave new world, and we're all learning together. And it's just friggin' amazing. And my question to you ladies is, I wonder what would happen, like imagine your sales calls, to approach it from a place of curiosity and owning your value from within and outwards. Because if you are on this call, you're a smart cookie, you're powerful, you are. And then there's so much that I see of, this power on the outside, gorgeous on the outside, kind of like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde existence, but on the inside, if you're really honest with yourself, secretly feel isolated or alone, or like a fraud, or uncomfortable. If they really knew. I feel that way.
And yes. Yes, you just wanted to just kind of want to wrap up that last point that you made, because I just want to, I want people to have clearly understand like what you're talking about, or be able to walk away with that information, because that was really good information. And it was talking about showing how Miriam really led from a place, a position that didn't necessarily look to be powerful. And I will say, in feminine there are, having participated in corporate America on leadership teams and throughout, uh, I have found that a lot of times the most powerful position is not necessarily the one that's doing the most talking. I mean, even in a sales call, the rule of thumb that I express to anybody that I'm training and talking to, the person who's doing the most talking is the one being sold. Because when you're truly leading from a place of power, you don't need to prove anything. The reason the people do the most talking is they're still in a position of attempting to prove, to validate and be credible in who they are. They're trying, there's an attempt to oversell. And when you're able to do more observing, right, to ask more questions, you can actually empower people to get to the place they really want to be in a quiet yet, as she said, qualitative way, right? It's a very gift and tool. And so just to kind of sum up with Eliana just said there, so just really think about what you're going when you're getting ready to have a conversation in sales is what is the desired outcome. So begin with the end in mind. It is a 7 habits of highly effective people. It will never go wrong. You will never go wrong when you begin with the end in mind. When you start out every conversation knowing what is the end result. And the most powerful people will start the conversation by reminding the person that they're talking to, this is the reason we're having the conversation. So at the end of this conversation, we will be able to do ABC, 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be 3 things. It could be 1 thing. Have the power to know and be clear about why you're having that conversation. It will take you so far in life. I can't even fathom the ridiculousness of ease of living that you'll have just by instilling that one behavior throughout the rest of your life. Start with the end in mind always.
That's so powerful and so beautiful.
But I got it
And
from you. I just re-say what people say in a different way.
great. I would add one more thing to that, which I sense would be, well, I hope it's empowering and helpful, is that, yes, so you have that clarity in mind. And then when you're in the situation, right, it's never what you think it's going to be. So that, yeah, that to show up in the present moment, from the inside out. I really believe that that is what we as women do have. And you express that so beautifully about the one who has the most power isn't necessarily the one who's speaking most. It's how are you being? How are you showing up? Because bottom line, the sales of anything, we're being of service to others, solving some kind of problem, helping someone to accomplish something. So that when the vulnerable part inside feels vulnerable, I think one of the mistakes that we make is we overcompensate by overdoing or over talking or over preparing, when I think that also is the brilliance of Miriam and feminine power, that the part that's messy is actually something that is quite attractive. Because think about the people who you are in a sales situation with, they don't have the answer, they're looking for help, and they feel vulnerable too. And I believe that vulnerability is not a sign of our weakness. It's exactly the opposite. It can be such a sign of power, such a sign of leadership. Because somebody who is willing to be vulnerable and willing to be human in a situation such, as a sales situation, shows humanity, it shows caring. Again, it's those feminine qualities. And, put yourself in a situation where you've been in the other place. Who are you going to choose to engage with? Someone who connects with you as a human being, or someone who has a perfect sales presentation?
So, well, I wanted to say thank you. This is because we're at time, so I want to honor your time and the people watching. If you'll write replay, we keep this to 25 to 30 minutes. And for anyone who caught us, we started a little bit late, so apologies. We had some technical challenges, and I appreciate you being on with us. Eliana, this has been absolutely amazing. I love the conversation. I love the way we looked at what that feminine power was, because again, I asked the question, I didn't know the answer myself. It wasn't a conversation that I ever partaken of, so just getting some additional insight and looking at how to be able to really take a back seat to feelings and emotions, and more looking at what is the desired outcome of the audience or the client or the prospect that I'm looking to serve, what's in their best interest. And that only happens when a person is internally motivated. So I would say if anybody wanted to contact you, how could they get in contact with you? What would be the best way to contact you, Eliana?
Sure. Well, my website is voicesofeden.com. And at voicesofeden.com is an amazingly powerful free gift there. It's a healing music meditation that is intended to help you connect with and trust your true voice. It
Awesome.
is a very short piece, and the intention of it is so you can download it to your phone or favorite device, and before you go to a sales presentation or meeting or picking up a telephone, there's a little guide with the two of how you can use it to show up connected, present, and really listening and at ease with yourself, so you can be a service to others and make
Okay,
lots of sales.
perfect. So at voicesofeden.com, there is a free download where you can utilize your own as you're going on your sales calls. So thank you. Stay where you are. For anybody watching, just a reminder, this is sponsored by the National Association of Sales Professionals. At the National Association of Sales Professionals, we offer a complimentary seller style assessment. So most people watching this are looking to improve in your sales ability, your influence, your ability to enroll, your ability to sign people up for wherever it is. And that is all a transaction. That is a sale. So when people say they don't sell, then you sell is just the transaction where you're getting someone to agree to what you want them to do based on your belief that it will help them to have a better result. That's all a sales is. It's just that transaction. And so in order to become better at anything, you got to know your baseline. You can't get to point B if you don't know where A is. So we just help you to understand what your current seller style is, that what that current is, then we show you what your ideal is based off of your responses, and we give you tips on how to move through that. So sign up at www.nasp.com/join, and you can acquire your complimentary seller style assessment. And for a limited time only, we are having coaching feedback calls where it's no cost. You get an actual coaching call on that seller style assessment feedback. And this is very limited. And I keep saying this because you might be catching this on a recording and they're no longer available. So if you're seeing this live, if you're seeing this pretty near the date that it has been broadcast, I would highly recommend you do it ASAP, because we're getting ready to eliminate those complimentary because of the response and the expansion. We'll look at some other opportunities, but that's it. So I want to say thank you, Eliana, for being an incredible woman of sales and influence and my guest. Thank you for all the people who are viewing. I see that Laura Hyman, hey, I wanted to say hi. You came on board and you shouted out. Jerusha said, thank you, Eliana, for sharing on the post. And ladies, we'll get the replay. You have access to connect with Eliana at any time. I'm going to say goodbye. I will see you guys next week. And just to give you FYI, the last 2 weeks of the year, I will be off, and then I'll be back in January. But I do take the last 2 weeks of the year off. So we have a couple more coming, and then I'll be taking a slight break and see you guys in January of 2020. So thank you for watching, and I will see you all next week. Eliana, stay where you are.